Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Business Spotlight. I'm your host, Todd Rodden. I'm a certified business and executive coach. I own Aspire Action Coach based here in Southwest Ohio. Your first time visitor, we're thrilled to have you. And if you're a regular subscriber, we also welcome having you here join us today. You're going to love this story message of a self-proclaimed accidental entrepreneur, Mimi Bourne, who's the founder of Mimi's Macros. Somebody really, you're going to sense her passion and commitment for what the services that her business provides, and she's really turned that into a thriving, growing enterprise here in the region. So, without further ado, Mimi Bourne, welcome to the Business Spotlight. Take a
Hi.
second and tell us a little bit more about Mimi's Macros, how you got started, and who are your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, accidental entrepreneur is indeed what I call myself. I'm a mom. I have seven children. I homeschool. I am very busy. So, I would never have been the sort of person that set out to start their own business. But coming out of COVID was a big turning point for me. I think it was kind of an inflection point for a lot of people. For me, it was health wise. I realized I was at an incredibly unhealthy place in my life, and I decided I needed to make some changes. So part of that for me was like a lifelong battle with my weight, and I started to kind of take that head on coming out of COVID. And I realized as I was getting into fitness and as I was taking care of myself, that a huge component for me was having really good food ready to go in the fridge because I was so busy and I didn't really have the time to care for myself. I checked out some meal prep companies. I had some stuff delivered to my home. I was ultimately pretty disappointed in the quality of what I was getting and in the variety of what I was getting, the freshness. And at a certain point, I kind of had a stern talk with myself, like, you are a chef. You can do this for a living. Like, maybe you should do it for yourself. So I did. I started doing it for myself. And in the course of eating this food and being around people at the gym and sharing some of my food, there was a huge call for it. And people would ask me, can I order some? Would you make me some of this? Could you make extra of that? And so, I've always been a long time hustler, and for me, I saw it as a way to make a little bit of side money, support my gym habit that I was slowly getting into. I did. I started providing that service and it just continued to grow. People told friends and friends told friends, and I started really running out of the capacity to fulfill the orders that I was getting just in my home, which, is as it wasn't really a business. It was just kind of a side hobby. And so I had to take a moment, take a beat, and decide if I wanted to really do it as a living. And I decided that I did. So we incorporated, got business insurance, got into a commercial kitchen, and actually, like, I started taking it seriously as a business. As soon as I had a website and a URL to share, and people started being able to share with friends, pay with a credit card online, get a packing slip, it was a legit business at that point. It just kind of exploded. And I found such a passion in growing to learn about my customers and their health challenges. And it really has inspired me to just continue growing as big as I can get it.
Okay, great story, right? And well, homeschooling seven and
Yeah.
starting a business, impressive
Accidentally,
indeed.
for sure. Yes.
Alright. So
Um,
you mentioned your customers. So
yeah.
maybe take us, tell us who kind of your target or ideal customers are. I got a lot of folks listening in. They may
Yeah.
want to go to the website, right?
I always say, like, well, do you eat food? Because if you eat food, you're my customer. But that's a little bit of a joke. In reality, it's a lot of busy professionals, it's working parents, and it's a lot of people who are on health journeys. And it doesn't always have to be a weight loss journey. For some people, it's about, getting strong and getting into the gym and wanting to increase their protein intake. For some people, it's busy moms, where their kids are going back to school and they've got football 3 nights a week and they've got soccer the other 2 nights a week. And it's like, when do you eat dinner? It's not even at that point what you eat, but when do you even fit dinner in? So the solution here is that we can provide meals for your family or for yourself that are really going to nourish you, that are going to make you feel better. It's a little bit better than what you're going to get from a home chef sort of thing, or certainly much better than going through a drive-through. So we try to maximize that. So basically, if you eat and you're busy, that's our client right there.
Hey,
So
maybe you got
everyone.
yeah, everyone
Yeah.
sign us up. So, in terms of kind of your footprint so far, talk about kind of the geographic area that you currently cover. I know you've got some bigger plans, but where are you at
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, so right now we're local. And the reason for keeping it local, one of those things is that we don't freeze our food. And we also don't do any like large batch cooking. So we actually prepare the meals when they're ordered and we deliver them within 36 hours. So we take a huge amount of orders and we are like crazy people in the kitchen and we make everything in a 36-hour time period, turn around and deliver it right to your doorstep. But we do that because, we make the food and it's designed to be as fresh as possible, not frozen, not sitting around. So because of that, we haven't moved outside of our local geographic area. So right now we're within 25 miles of Newport, Kentucky, which is right on the border of Cincinnati. So we're basically in the greater Cincinnati area. We go out into Indiana a little bit, obviously Ohio and northern Kentucky. We do have plans, hopefully down the road, to open hubs in other cities close to us. We're not quite there yet, but it is a long-term vision.
Yeah, love it. And obviously, probably that you're always going to have some of that hub and spoke approach because of the need for freshness, right? You've got to
Sure.
be there present. So,
Yeah.
okay. So as you've grown, and I think you founded the firm in 2021, so you're roughly 4 years in place now. What have been some of the keys to growth for you? You talked a lot about some word of mouth from friends and folks you knew there to get started, but what other marketing techniques have generated the most customers for you?
So I've got to be honest, very little. We dabbled with some social media, playing around with paying for some social media ads. We found very little success there. But I will say that me personally sharing my journey on social media drives our sales a great deal. I sort of talk about, if you're a photographer, there's 100 other photographers in your city. If you have a meal prep business, there's maybe 10 other meal prep businesses just like you in your city. Everywhere you go, your business isn't going to be that unique. And what makes you special is you. People are going to purchase from you because they resonate with you, with your story, with the way that you care for them, with the approach that you take to what you do. And so for me, I found a direct correlation with how vulnerable I am and how open I am with my own health journey on Facebook, on Instagram, and that is absolutely trackable to our sales. So for me, personally sharing my journey and being really open with that was a huge part, especially in the beginning of growing like a client base that felt so strongly that they were on that same path with me. And then word of mouth has been our biggest driver of sales. We spend very little on marketing. We do have some deals with some Instagram sort of influencers who, push our brand or post about our brand. And it does help. I track those things. We do have some affiliate programs with some local gyms and trainers, some weight loss centers locally that give out our information, but it's a very small cost to us. And so our advertising line item budget is really like the lowest thing that we spend money on, which is kind of a shocking thing. And I'll take it. I know it can't stay that way forever. So for as long as we can build the way we're building with as little input as possible, as little financial input as possible, then I'm going to try to do that.
Hey, hey, when you can build that model out, right? More power to you, right? That's
Absolutely.
great.
Right.
So, every entrepreneur journey, even those who are accidental entrepreneurs, have some twists and turns and some hills and valleys. So,
Sure,
if you
sure.
mind, maybe share a past challenge you've had in the last 4 years and how you overcame that, and what did you learn?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think multiple things. It's when you don't plan a business and you sort of end up being in a business, everything is brand new, and you end up being very reactive instead of proactive, and so things are just kind of coming at you, and you're often reacting on the spot. And the great thing is that I had a lot of time at the beginning to make a lot of mistakes, and it didn't have a huge financial impact because I was small. So, something that I leaned into really heavily my first year in business was trying to wholesale my food through other places. So, for example, St. Elizabeth is a huge hospital chain here locally, and they have a weight loss center. And I got hooked in with them, and they said, we really want to carry your meals. We want to sell your meals directly to our clients that are coming in. We love everything about you. It was this fantastic deal that they worked up and everything. And what I found is that really what I agreed to, it even at the volume they were ordering, my profit was so little that I was spending so much in labor to produce the goods for them that I was actually losing money on the deal, even though on paper it looked like this amazing, fantastic thing. And I did that a couple different times with a couple different places where I gave up control of my product to let someone else stock it or let someone else, decide when it was expired. Or,
Mhm.
I did a lot where I sort of agreed to whatever because I wasn't really sure what I wanted or what my identity was, what my brand identity was. And I ended up meeting with a sort of a business specialist here locally. He had donated some time to some young entrepreneurs, and so I got a half an hour to sit down with him. And he kind of went through some of my business with me and some of my numbers and pointed out to me, like, look, your margin on all of these deals are terrible. You're killing yourself to fulfill these deals and you're making no money on it. Whereas your other part of the business, which is your doorstep delivery to your loyal customers, you make a huge margin and they're suffering because of these giant deals. And I really needed to hear that. And so I actually shut those deals down. And I decided, he said, 10x whatever works, 10x that, whatever makes you the most money, 10x that. And so I did. I leaned way into the home delivery aspect because that's really what people needed. And
Mhm.
that is my highest, profit margin in that realm. And so I do very little now with wholesaling or with, I'm happy to work with gyms as affiliates to where they promote me and we're happy to, give them a code to give out for a discount, that sort of thing. But as far as people, the instant they say like, well, we could get stuff and put it in our fridge, I say, no, I'm good. Thank you. I've tried that. That doesn't work for us. We'll go ahead and we'll sign your personal training clients up and we'll put that food right on their doorstep every Sunday morning, So
So,
that was a big one for me was I was trying to be everything to everybody. And I had to learn how to hone my brand down into what really worked and what made me the most money. And I don't even mean that in a sense of like how I'm going to get rich, but in a way that I could reinvest in the business and be
yeah,
profitable and hire employees and continue to grow. You can't grow if you're not making money.
right.
And so for me, it was the idea of making my business actually smaller, which felt wrong to me. But because I made it smaller, I made it much stronger.
Great, a great example, and it's easy to chase a lot of shiny objects that look great and attractive, but to quickly be able to test those out, and if they're not working, cut them off, right? Sometimes it's hard to cut the cord on some of those things. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So that's looking back. Now I'm curious as you're scaling up, and I think you mentioned offline, looking maybe at some other geographic areas as well. As you look forward, what's the challenge you see in front of you and the team currently?
Sure. Yeah, so the biggest challenge that we have is an ongoing. It's a challenge and it's a win, right? So and oftentimes those things come packaged together. So we have run out of space in our current kitchen location. And so at the beginning of this year, or really actually it was in the fall, we started looking for a larger location. And through the course of looking, we found an excellent opportunity. So I signed a lease on our own kitchen facility. It's almost 4,000 square feet and it's being built to suit, which is amazing. So we walked into several places they had small restaurant kitchens. And when you think about a restaurant, you think it's going to have a massive kitchen, but actually it's designed to be quite small. Everything is prepped and then you're cooking for service. So you're cooking in a small area to serve the dining area, which is the largest part. A commercial kitchen, obviously your workspace is much larger because you don't have to have a storefront. So this situation was amazing because it was a building that they were going to be rehabbing anyway. And they really were unsure of did they want to make it multi-use? Did they want to do, they weren't really sure, but they weren't making the revenue on this rental building that they wanted to. And so we were introduced by a mutual friend, and I came in and talked to the two guys that own it, and they absolutely loved the vision, the company, everything. And so we worked out a lease arrangement where they're going to build out the kitchen. And so it's super, super exciting. We're moving in the fall. It's amazing. It's a blessing. It's a win. It's wonderful, but it is also terrifying because we're going from a space right now where if something breaks, there's a management company that fixes it. We're moving into our own space, which means we pay all of the utilities. We are purchasing all of our own equipment. Right now, we work on shared equipment that we don't have to be responsible for. And so, that's the idea of, growth is at once scary and also exhilarating. And so it's for me, it's managing it. I've always run our business with no debt. I'm very proud of that. We're 4 years in. We've scaled immensely and we have zero debt on the business. And I am trying to bootstrap into this kitchen additionally with no debt. And so it's a very lean summer. It is a very lean summer. We are being very careful about what we spend and how we spend it. And we're, looking at a lot of kitchens that are shutting down to find used equipment and stuff like that. But it's certainly a challenge, and getting in there and getting set up and transitioning over into that new kitchen space is going to be a huge job. But again, challenge, but exciting.
So building upon that, and you mentioned the importance of vision. So what's your longer term vision for the business? You look 3, 5+ years down the road.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of go back and forth a little bit with that because on one hand, the brand is very special to me, and it has such a personal meaning and a personal message. I've thought a lot about possibly franchising once I have it proven out and I can show, consistently like this is how we garner our customers and this is how we've built the business. And I think there's a lot of money in that, but you run the risk then, and I've spoken to business owners that have franchised where obviously you dilute the brand quite a bit and there's not a lot of control that you can have in some of those aspects. So I'm not, I think about that and I look at it as a potential in the future, but I'm not 100% sold on it. I would love to open in other markets once we have a kitchen really well established here and we have a provable, and at this point with 4 years in, we really do. But I want to have some time in our own kitchen where it's not a shared kitchen or a ghost kitchen, where we can show that we can take on that additional rental payment, the additional, things that come along with that. I want to be able to prove that out. And if so, then I would like to open possibly a location in Dayton or a location in Columbus or Lexington, and start kind of spreading out regionally. The key there is finding the right people, finding the right partners that you can trust to manage that day to day and love it just like you love it, or at least love it close to how you love it. Um,
Hmm.
that's the toughest part, I think, in building out in that way.
Yeah, because that's a big leap. Because right now you have line of sight to everything happening in the kitchen, but now if you
Absolutely.
have 3 or 4 kitchens, obviously
Yeah,
now you've got to have all the right players who
absolutely.
think like you there. So great. You also mentioned team
Yeah.
as you've been scaling up as well, and I think I think you have a combination of kind of traditional W-2s as well as some key 1099 contract kind of support. So walk through what have been your keys to building a team and are and retaining those folks who are connected to the mission with you.
Sure. Well, one thing is that I pay really well. So I pay above average for the job that I'm staffing for. I feel like if you kind of get what you pay for. And I think that I'm a bargain hunter. Oh, I am such a bargain hunter. I will go to Goodwill. I will wear everything used and I will enjoy every bit of it. But when I'm paying for childcare for my children or I'm hiring someone and I want someone to stay with me and have longevity, I'm willing to pay those couple extra dollars more an hour because I feel like, it really puts skin in the game for you. You're telling someone like, I really feel like you're worth this.
Hmm.
You're worth more to me than you are down the street where you can get the exact same job. So that's number one. Number two, I think, I'm a very compassionate person. I really care so deeply about the people that work with me. I like to know what their family stories are. I like to know what their personal struggles are. All the way down to I like to know what their favorite drink is, and I always make sure that it's stocked in our walk-in. So for some people, that might be a specific flavor of Alani. For some people, it's Gatorade, or it's sugar-free strawberries and cream Dr. Pepper. Those are just some examples across the board of specific drinks that people like. But I'm telling you, when you come to work and you have the thing that you like that's there in the walk-in for you when you take your break, even though for me it is such a small gesture to add that 12 pack on to my $3,000 order, it's not a big deal for me. It's incredibly meaningful for someone to feel cared for. And these are hourly, wage earners and they're used to working in kitchen environments. It's hot, it's kind of thankless, it's very physically demanding. And we've had several, issues with heat in the kitchen, for example. One weekend it was very hot. I went out and I bought some additional fans, even though it's not really on us to provide that within the facility. I went out and bought some additional fans. I bought cooling blankets or the cooling rags for around their necks and some other stuff. And One of the managers told me that one of the employees, after I got liquid IV, I gave them all the stuff and
Okay.
cautioned them to take breaks. It's hot. Make sure you sit down if you feel weak. Make sure you're drinking electrolytes. I'm momming them essentially. I can't help it. That's who I am. And she came to me later and said, the one girl said, "Is this what it's like to have a boss who cares about you?" And on one hand, like that, that fills me a little bit, but also it's sad because truly people feel so taken advantage oftentimes in the workforce, especially in an hourly job like that, in a physical hourly job. And so for me, it's paying well and making people really feel like they're seen and that they're appreciated. Those are probably my biggest things for retaining. As far as attracting talent, it's hard because it's not an office job. It's not, we're asking people, it's a pretty big ask, to come into a hot kitchen. You have to really love it. And not only do you have to love the cooking aspect of it, I think you have to have a passion for what we do specifically. And my best employees are ones that have their own health journey that they've been on, or they have a family member who's been on a health journey, or they have a complicated relationship with food, and they see what it is that we do by providing these meals to people. For me, I kind of feel like this food can change your life if you let it. Like it can really repair your relationship with food if you're a yo-yo dieter, or if you're going through perimenopause and you want to get stronger, or it's more than just food, really. It's very missional for me. And so the people that I've retained the longest, the people that have moved up in the organization, they maybe didn't come in with all the skills, but they came in with the vision and they came in with the heart for the mission that we have. And so they've stayed because they're bought in. They're
Yeah.
emotionally and bought into to what it is that we do. They feel they have ownership of it. They feel a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. You've cracked that nut. It's so much more than a wage, right? It's
Absolutely.
added into the mission.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I meant to ask this earlier with your business. What do you wish more people knew about your business?
Well, I think just about meal prep in general, that it's actually incredibly um, not only is it time saving, but it actually saves a ton of money, especially if you're someone who always plans to cook. I think the idea is, you go out and you look and you think like, oh my gosh, $12, $13 for one meal. But when you actually break it down to its components, and if you're one of those people that you're on Sunday, you're like, I'm gonna prep, I've got my week planned out, and you go to the grocery store and you spend $350 and you have all this fresh produce and you've got these chicken breasts, and then your week explodes. And at the end of the week, you find yourself having ordered DoorDash twice and gone through the drive-through once and throwing away all of the rotten produce. I'm sure there's probably 75% of your audience right now going like, "Oh yeah, she's talking about me." Because I'm talking
Yeah.
about myself, I would do that. And so the idea is that yes, when you go and you look like, "Oh wow, a meal for $13." Actually, if you just order those meals and you're not going to the grocery store and spending $350 on all of these different components to make all of these different things, you're actually saving a ton of money.
Yeah.
And then for my business specifically, not just meal prep in general, but for my business specifically, um, I wish that people understood how much more goes into it than just schlocking some food into a container. Like we plan these menus out, we go back and forth over the macros to the point of saying like, well, can we get 85 grams of bacon into this dish? Because it would make it taste so much better. Well, that takes the fat to this many grams. Well, if the fat is that many grams, maybe we can back this component down to bring that fat back into line where we want it. There's so much thought and process that goes into um, it's not just chicken, green beans, and rice. Anyone can do that. What we make is so beautifully composed. It's designed to be so delicious, but it's not going to derail you with a ton of sodium, with a ton of fat, with, way too many carbs, whatever. We lead with protein. We put so much time and attention into every single meal. And that's probably not apparent to someone who doesn't work in a kitchen. So I wish that people knew really how much blood, sweat, and tears goes into a meal before we even make it, when we're still just conceptualizing of it.
Well, I'm pretty confident our audience here today can see that commitment and passion from you, just how you described that.
Thanks. Thanks.
So, many of our viewers are also newer in their entrepreneurial journey. You're 4 years in, some are newer. What have so far have been your keys to success, or maybe what do you wish you knew then that you know now?
Gosh, I would say probably the thing that has served me the best is that I am so doggedly stubborn. I am just so stubborn. And so when I come up against a brick wall, to me, that's not a signal to turn around. I just go like, well, I don't know how many times I have to hit it before it falls over, but I guess that's what I'm doing now. And then I just walk at it until it moves or it falls down. It's grit and determination. I part of this whole journey for me has been a fitness journey as well. So, I've lost 110 pounds over the last 4.5 years. And, that doesn't happen overnight. That's a series of small decisions, the daily decisions over and over and over again. And that's translated really well for me across my eating habits and then now across showing up as a business owner and accomplishing things. A lot of people talk about motivation. What motivates you? What? And that word drives me crazy because motivation can't, it just makes you feel good. It just makes you want to do something. It's discipline. Discipline is the thing that gets you up at 6:30 in the morning to go to the gym. Discipline is the thing that when everyone else leaves the kitchen and you've got two or three more things to accomplish and you know you're going to be there till 1 in the morning, you're there till 1 in the morning because your name's on it and you're going to get it done anyway because it's the thing that you have to do. And so for me, um, luckily, I've always been a very stubborn person. People in my life might not say that that's a lucky thing, but for me, it has served me so well. Just the person where like the buck stops with me and I'm not stopping till it's done. There's just no substitute for that, especially at the beginning when you're in that grind.
Yep. Yep. Tremendous grit. So I'm curious, kind of build upon that. Has there been a book, a podcast, a speaker who's been influential in you and your journey?
Yeah, sure. Um, Boy, so many. I love self-help books. I love podcasts. So there's, a laundry list. Probably the book that I've read the most recently that resonated with me the most, that I've gone back to multiple times, and this is probably as a very determined, very process-driven person, this is probably not going to shock anyone, but it's Atomic Habits
I
by
get
James Clear.
it.
You know what it is that it's not just an idea that he presents, but he gives you these tangible ways to make the changes. And I love the idea of something being atomic because my personal saying that I have for myself, and I actually have it posted up in the kitchen in multiple places, is 1% better every day. And you can't be 1% better at everything every day, but at least one thing every single day that I did, whether it's a little bit heavier weight in the gym, or if I haven't been drinking enough water, maybe getting a little bit more water in, getting my steps a little bit more, being slightly more intentional with my children this day than I was the day before, putting my phone down and doing something with them. Whatever it is, I try to hit one thing every single day that I try to just do slightly better than I did the day before. And so the idea of an atomic habit, of it being something very small that you build on, it goes right along with my personal ethos. And so I love that book. I've read it. And then when I really like a book, what I do is I listen to it to the audio version as well, and then I'll go back and read it again because I'm
Yep.
just a dork like that, and I like to. I need to kind of take it in multiple times in multiple ways, especially if it's something that I really enjoy. Another book that I've read recently that I go back to a lot is called Setting the Table. And so it's about hospitality. It's written by a restaurant group owner, and he started Gramercy Tavern in New York City and a series of other large, very successful restaurants in New York City. And what he really focuses on with setting the table is the idea of hospitality and what that looks like. And so that's a really huge part of my business. Even though we don't have a table setting where someone comes and sits down and eats our food, they're enjoying that within their own home. There's a specific amount of love and care that I feel like we can impart into our food that someone feels when they're eating it. I want them to feel that hospitality and being cared for. And a huge part of that for him was team building because he has built sort of a restaurant group and a restaurant empire. And so a big part of that was getting the right players who could run these restaurants as he went and built the next restaurant, and then getting the right person in charge of that while he went and built the next restaurant. And so when I look forward into my future, and I'm talking about multiple kitchens, it's essentially multiple restaurants. And so his approach to hiring, I love, which is that it doesn't need to be about the skills. You can, so he gives an example of hiring a bartender, and he said you can hire a bartender who can do all the tricks and they're flashy and they're amazing and people follow them from bar to bar because they love the way this bartender is, but he's flaky. Maybe he's an alcoholic. He doesn't show up to work, or
Yeah.
he's not great to work with, and staff is unhappy when he's around. He said, or you could hire someone who's an okay bartender, but they love your company. They love being there every day. They're a team player. They get along with everyone. They understand what you're trying to do. They understand the hospitality. They understand how you want the guests to feel. They can learn the tricks. They can learn to be a better bartender. But you can't teach the heart. You can't teach the buy-in. That's
Right.
something that people have to come automatically with. I was reading it on a plane, I remember, and there was no one around me. I was by myself on the plane, and I stopped because I wanted to tell someone when I read that chapter. I was like, I wanted to tell someone, and there was no one to tell. I couldn't even call someone. And so I just reread those pages several times, and then I dog-eared all of them and I moved on. But I go back and look at that often because it helps me even with the employees we already have, how I want to instill in them that feeling about what it is that we do, why we walk in that door every week, and what the end result should be. Um, it's been a huge driver for me in the idea of how to build out and how to find the right team when I do build out.
Okay. Thank you. Two outstanding examples. Appreciate you sharing those. So,
Yeah, of course.
yeah. So, Mimi, our time flies here with us
Yeah.
today. So, as we look to wrap up here, what are the best ways for folks to learn more about Mimi's macros and or to stay connected with you and the business?
Sure. So if you want to look at our menu, if you want to order, that's going to be on our website. Or if you just want to go look at pretty pictures of food every week. I mean, I'm always looking at pictures of food, so I'm into it. It's just mimismacros.com. It's so easy. And then we're pretty easy to find as well on social media. We have a very active Facebook and Instagram presence, and it's just at Mimi's Macros it's very simple to find us.
All right. So folks, check it out. So, Mimi, as we wrap up, you've shared several inspiring messages here today. So, I'm curious, what are you inspired by today as we wrap up?
So for me, and it might be a little bit specific to me, but I'm in my 40s, so I'm walking towards perimenopause, and there's a lot of weird hormonal things that happen, and there's a whole group of women out in the world right now in our 40s and 50s. And we grew up in toxic 90s diet culture. And so we grew up with the idea of counting calories and self-loathing and being as small as possible and, low fat and low everything and eat as little as possible. And I'm meeting these women now that have found my company that are showing up saying, like, I don't even look at calories anymore. I just know I need to hit 150 grams of protein. I'm in the gym lifting heavy now. I've never felt stronger. I've never felt better. I feel like sort of for me, this healed my relationship with food that was caused by all of that. And we all kind of carry that wound, women my age. And when I keep meeting my customers over and over and over again who've had that experience of being able to fix that relationship and find that power within themselves, and find that joy in eating and taking care of their bodies. And I want to reach everybody with the message, with the food, with the tools that they need. And it really keeps me going on the days when I feel like I don't want to.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your story. Again, I encourage listeners to go check out the website, mimismacros.com, and also follow them on social media, Instagram and Facebook. A lot more to come, an exciting journey, not only in this metro area, but as you look to scale and build out in
Yeah,
other cities coming soon.
for
So
sure.
thank you so much, Mimi Bourne.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
All right. And to our viewers, we're thrilled to have you join us today and encourage you to hit that like button. That helps us get the message out even more. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so you can receive future inspiring messages like you heard from Mimi Bourne today. And with that, I hope you all have a terrific day. Thank you.